Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Model Car Cup Series. Today I want to give you a quick update. This is not part 2, we'll call it part 1.5 since it's just an update. A lot of changes have had to be made. I want to share some of that stuff with you. Bunches of stuff, and we'll go over that real quick. So if you're following along with a 30-second scale, if you're as nutty as I am, I'll share with you some things you might want to be looking at in the future. Stick around, we'll have some fun. Today's trivia question: the turns at Talladega stand how many stories high? A, 2, B, 3, C, 4, D, 5. That sounded like a game of Battleship or Bingo. Okay, guys, this is, like I said in the opening, an update. So I just want to show you a few things little things that I expected. At the same time, there are a number of things that I certainly didn't expect. On the body, you saw where we cut out all of our air vents and ducts, removed the roll bars that were molded in, little bit more putty work here, and I think everything else is coming along well. Drilled out the fuel inlet, also added the overflow, which is just a piece of ultrafine aluminum tubing, and I think overall it's coming out pretty smooth. This is just the first primer. We'll hit it again, sand the whole thing over, and give it one more good coat before we start doing some color. On the chassis, there were a number of issues that came up. Of course, I showed you where I had to fill in that long hole here. This one we're going to leave, and I'll show you why in a moment. Several other little holes that still have to be filled in. You can see some from the bottom here. We added a track bar in that the rear end that comes stock with it just attaches from trailing arm to trailing arm, which is not correct, but it gives you something there anyway. So I added the track bar mount, and I took my chisel and just kind of dug a trench here to flatten that out a little bit. And the reason for that is, you see the sump tank box here. Well, usually you can see the bottom of the sump tank down here, and you can't because there was nothing there. So this is not what I'm using, but this is just a piece to give me the size that'll be mounted down here, and I'll probably use some aluminum on that to make this, and it'll be a lot shorter than that too, but that way you'll be able to see the bottom of the sump tank. And talking about that rear end real quick, the rear axle had the molded in drive shaft, again that trailing arm, the brake disc looking things there, and all that's been removed in ours. Oh, and the mounting brackets, or where the spring buckets normally would be here, these tall things, and you see little pins that snap into the chassis. Well, all that had to be removed, and as you can see here, we have a nice spring bucket once we remove that. Drive shaft's been removed. On the back of the rear end, we've got some holes drilled for the rear end cooling lines, as well as some holes into the pump there. So we've accurized that as much as we can, I think. And on the front suspension, you see here, you had the little round discs, and I'll put this up here a minute. And this is just the kit part. And the thing that stuck out were there were actually two things that stuck out. You'll notice right here, if you can, you see a huge gap right there between this piece, which normally would be welded right up to the frame rail, and the same gap on the other side. Well, that wasn't going to work. The other thing was, you notice on this steering arm here, or the steering system, this is just kind of sitting in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing that attaches to the frame rails, none of that stuff. So that had to be corrected. And so what we did here was we removed those round discs, removed the upper A-arms from the chassis, and I'll show you how. We're going to scratch build those upper A-arms, and put some shims in here, and as you see, it's a snug enough fit that it holds itself in place. But this just hanging out in nowhere land, that didn't do it. So what I did was I made a steering box, which is already on the toothpick to be painted here, and that will be mounted on the chassis right where it's supposed to be. There's actually the spot for it, it just isn't there. So as you can see, that'll go right on the chassis there, and that'll be hooked up to the steering arms. And speaking of the stuff to be painted, we got a lot of stuff here that is getting ready to go in the paint booth. Valve covers, I did a number of well, not configurations so much as colors. I've seen a number of RCR Lumina engines, and the valve covers were a little bit different color in different ones. So we're going to be looking at that. Also, the lines have already been drilled out in the oil pan for the, well, sorry about that, guys. I keep hitting that camera again. The oil lines in the oil pan, well, here, and here for the oil system. The dash, and we'll get to the rest of this chassis here in just a second. The stock dash is just terrible. These two little boxes here, the ignition boxes, are just little squares of plastic that are molded onto the dash. Well, we removed those. Also, you notice the height from top to bottom of the dash itself is pretty narrow. And what I did there, the gauge decals I have in 32nd scale are just a fraction big. So we took a piece of sheet plastic, I took my punch, made a little spot there, and that fits right there. The gauges will be on that, and as you can see, the gauge access panel on top of the dash that's open. You see the roll bar that runs down through there too. That fits right there, and the ignition switch panel will be mounted right there. A little straighter than that, but it'll be mounted right there. So we've got a plan there, and I've also got another. This is white metal, and this is another ignition system that's, like I said, it's in white metal, and it'll be hanging to replace those just little flat boxes. It'll be over here. And big modification to the chassis here. This is the bar that just, you see this little tab here that goes in that slot right there. And I don't know how that passed NASCAR inspection, but as you see, there's a huge gap from here down. And of course, this is a snap together kit. It wasn't meant to be, I guess, that solid if it's a toy. But there's that gap right there. And you see on the other side where my finger is. Well, what we did to fix that, I couldn't have that. So I added and put some gussets in there, an extension, and that allows this not only to go all the way down to the bottom, but it allows it to have something to fit onto there. And let me put this, snap this on here real quick. And I'll show you the sidebars. You know, when we remove those molded in sidebars, oh, and by the way, there's the steering wheel. You see a little brass piece there, where the steering wheel snaps on. I'm going to be putting splines on that with a file. There's that roll bar that runs under there. But this is starting to come together pretty decently, I think. And the roll bars fit very well with the body on. I test, retest, fit, and just keep going and keep going and keep going. Apparently I didn't hold my mouth right there. And as you see, great fit. And what we're going to do, using those roll bars from the monogram kit in 32nd scale, got a little bit of trim work back here to even it all up, but fits in there really well. The next thing up is going to be the engines, and as you can see, I've already drilled out for the headers. We've mounted our riser and carburetor face or plate up there, so that's looking good. I'm going to try to get a good bit done on the engine before the end of the week. Got some seats, some other stuff I'll go over, but we'll show you that stuff a little bit later. You remember my wheels that, and these are in primer now. Next time you see these, they'll have paint on them, as well as I'll try to have the tires dressed out all the way. And those are the wheels, and remember my, which I love this, Miguel did such a great job on that fuel cell, dropped right in. And remember guys, Miguel at HobbiWerks, HobbiWerks.com. Got to go over there and visit. Unbelievable stuff. And by the way, if you're going to be in Atlanta, bring a little extra, because he's going to be there vending. Get a hold of him in advance and get you some special order stuff. There's his card. The link to his Facebook page, YouTube channel. Show him some love too, by the way. Go over there and check out his YouTube channel. Give him a sub. But as you see in these pictures, this is the scratch belt bracing for the inside deck lid of the Superflow Lumina. And instead of redoing that in 1/32 scale, I sent him a picture and said, hey, what are the odds that you could do this in 32nd? And the next thing you know, I get a proof picture back in just a very short amount of time. And in the mail yesterday, bang, there it is. Is that not something? And again, smooth. It even has the curvature for the deck lid. And this is just some awesome stuff. I'm going to share one other thing with you. Let me show you the one I have. I'm getting ready to mount this right now too, so I can get primer on it, as well as the hood. Check that out. Is that not pretty? But he sent a few other little things that in 16th scale he was showing me some stuff, and let me tell you, as well as some 25th. But this was in the pack, and I've got primer on it, and I'm going to have this sitting on my desk. I'm probably going to paint it, but check out that Lenco transmission. Everything. And this is 3D printed, guys. And smooth. Is that not something? I think for his 70 Roadrunner or GTX project, I don't remember which one he's doing, but he's got one of these going to go in it, and going to have the Hemi, and beautiful, beautiful work. If you said the turns at Talladega are 4 stories high, congrats, you're right. Guys, I think that's everything on the update for right now. I'm looking around trying to make sure. I'm pretty sure it is, for the moment anyway. Yeah, we'll close it out right there. If you're not a subscriber, guys, head over and give us some support, please. Hit that sub button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any upcoming videos. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you didn't like it. Either way, it counts. Guys, again, I think that's it, so we'll call it. God bless. Have an awesome day, and we'll see you in a few days.